You threw the camera thing on there, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm in panic mode. All right. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Steve.
And I'm Billy.
We're from Hillbilly Auto Supply, and we have decided we are actually going to make an educational video. If you haven't seen any of the funny stuff, you're missing out, so you should definitely go ahead and do that. But today, we want to talk to you guys actually about something that we get questions on all the time, and that is part number compatibility. Right,
Yeah.
Billy?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and break down what these part numbers are all about and how they actually come together. So, Billy, you want to share real quick with people kind of what has happened with the part numbers over the years?
So back in the 50s and 60s, there was a specific part number system that was set up that is often mistaken as the same part number system that's used today. You'll even see some of this old part numbering system in the first generation of the Super Duty. But you need to be really, really careful, because if you actually do some deep digging and diving, you'll find that the part numbers that are actually used on Super Duties are right when there was a refresh by Ford on how the part numbers actually are put together, specifically the prefix.
Yeah, okay. So, for example, if you have an early Gen 1, you are likely to have some OBS parts on your truck, actually. And so you may actually be dealing with part numbers that are sort of from both of the versions that they had. And so you need to pay very close attention to that, obviously, right? We are pretty much going to be talking about the newer version of the part numbers. Why? Because we deal with Super Duties, and the Super Duties really are, for the most part, just dealing with the new part numbers, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. Which is incidentally what we have on our board right here.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, do you want to go ahead and start sharing about the first part of the part number and what it means and how it comes together?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing you need to understand is that there's three parts of a Ford OEM part number. You're going to have the prefix, you're going to have the actual central piece, which is often called the part number, and you have the suffix. So what you're asking me about is the first digit in the prefix.
Right.
Now, this could be a number, this could be a letter, but ultimately that first digit is going to tell you the year the part was made in. It doesn't necessarily tell you what year the truck you have is, but it's going to tell you when that part was made to be put into a truck. So you could have a part number that indicates it was made in 2017 on a 2019 truck.
Right, exactly. And so essentially it's all about when that particular part number was introduced. And I think it's also important to mention that people realize that in the old numbering system, they were kind of going with decades and then years, where they sort of got rid of that in the new numbering system. And they're actually now, that first piece is really just all about the year that is introduced.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. And so what are some examples of some of those years, Billy?
So, for example, we have this example right here, F, which is 2015. So this is actually something we took out of a 2017 truck right here. The part number right here is for this piece right here. This is out of a 17. But
the part was introduced in 15.
Correct. The part was actually introduced in 2015. This was first a part that was used in 2015. And naturally, as generations move along, you're going to have some parts that are brought over between generations. This is actually one of them. So, yeah, the F means 2015.
The F means 2015 out of a 2018 truck, and a lot of people tend to get confused about that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So let's jump to the next part, right? So...
there is actually one more thing worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Sometimes you will notice that that first digit doesn't seem right. So maybe you're doing some research and you're finding, hey, maybe this 2015 part isn't supposed to be in this truck. And that's very possible. By knowing what year the part was made in, you might actually be able to figure out what parts in your car are actually originally from your truck versus parts that were added maybe aftermarket, or maybe parts that were from a completely different year that were added on later.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. Okay, so jumping to the next part here, all right? These next two pieces right here of the actual prefix of the part number, what do they exactly signify?
So those actually are going to signify what the part was originally made for vehicle-wise. So it could mean this part was originally made for the Mustang. We actually had a radio like that one time where we pulled it out of a truck, and the radio was actually originally made for a Mustang.
The
but because it's
receiver,
a-
yeah, I remember
But
that.
because it was just like a radio, I mean, you can use that on damn near anything. So they used it on all sorts of vehicles, including the Super Duty. What we have here is actually L3, which means that this part right here was originally used for a like heavier truck. Like think probably like a F450 or a 550 even, maybe even something heavier. So that's what L3 could mean. You're going to see on a lot of Super Duty part numbers that these
That
two are going to be,
configuration.
you're going to see C3.
Okay.
C3 is actually light duty truck. So that's going to be your 250s and your 350s.
Okay.
In particular.
Okay. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. So then finally, what does this last component of the prefix actually mean?
So that one can be a little trippy. It kind of depends on what kind of like factory it's from, but generally it's going to be indicative of the manufacturing department that was behind the part. So it could be a department that is dedicated to like specifically engineering like how a part of the engine is going to run,
Okay.
or the way a fender is going to be shaped,
Right,
or something
right.
like that. So it's going to be a specific engineering department, because it's not
Okay.
just like the engineering department is one big thing that does everything. There's sections of the engineering
individual departments, yeah.
in Ford.
Yeah.
And so this is almost like their little signature saying,
Yeah.
hey, that's what we did.
Yeah, I remember I actually screwed that up once when I was trying to help a customer, and thank God you guys caught me. But I was dealing with the engineering department, and we were specifically actually dealing with a transmission piece, and it ended up signifying whether the piece that I actually had was for a manual versus an automatic transmission. And so that part of the part number, even though it's from the same design department, can actually be different there. Okay.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. You have to, these part numbers can be a little trippy. So you have to, it's always good to double check your work. It's always good to do just a little bit of research and figure out if things are on point.
Yeah, I like that. That's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the way, I do want to just bring to your attention real quick. So we have a parts decoder on our website. It is not perfect, but it's damn near perfect. And between that parts decoder and any one of us here, we can pretty much help you. So if you have a part and you're not quite sure which other parts are compatible with it, just give us a call, jump on our parts decoder. It's obviously on our website, but jump on our parts decoder. And really what we're trying to accomplish for you guys is not just helping you with the OEM Super Duty parts, but in case you're looking for any aftermarket stuff, we can go ahead and help with that too, with respect to the parts decoder itself.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's also going to tell them if we, for instance, have something in stock. That'll help with that.
It'll give you a stock count. The decoder will help you understand what exactly each part of this means. So a lot of this stuff that we are explaining to you right now will also be explained by the decoder. And you can also tell the decoder the name of a part itself, and it will actually find part numbers for you. So if you somehow can't figure out the part number on a part, it got scratched off, the sticker that was on it got ripped off, whatever, wear and tear, it's a great way to kind of like have a backup plan and figure out what exactly your part number may be, which again, can help you with compatibility.
And so if you're trying to save money and you don't want to go to the dealer for some of these parts, that can be a really useful tool.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. So let's jump into the next portion of the numbering system. That's the middle part here. So you want to explain that one a little bit?
So part number, thankfully, hasn't changed too much since the changes that were made back in 1999. So there's a lot of crossover between the two. Things are a little bit more specific now. But for example, with this part number right here, this is actually a light switch piece. And on it, you have a 13 at the beginning. 13,000 numbers are often indicative of parts that are related to lamps. It can mean a lot more, but lamps, lamp control, electronics, things like that is something that you'll often find where the 13 is at the start of this centerpiece, the part number.
Right.
Another example that you may run into is on radios, for example, they will often start the part number with an 18. So it's usually like a comfort and convenience electronic part.
Okay. So these essentially, there is somewhat of a methodology or a rhyme or reason to these individual part numbers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But when somebody, for example, goes and looks for a part number, a lot of times what we are finding online is that the systems don't necessarily look at the entire numbering system, but they just kind of look at the center. So if you are looking up a part number and maybe it doesn't match right from the beginning, make sure you look at that middle part, because that middle part is really sort of the core of the entire numbering system.
It
the way that it has
defines what specific part you're looking at. So you could have a part that is exactly the same as this, same functionality,
Right.
maybe even came out of the same truck, but because it was made by a different manufacturer or something along those lines, you could have a prefix completely different.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
you want to try and pay attention to those things.
Okay. And again, we are talking OEM here. Okay.
OEM.
Very, very
Yep.
important. Aftermarket part numbers is a complete crapshoot. But again, the decoder can potentially help with that. That's one of the big things we wanted to do, is help people have an option with that, whether they want to go, some of you guys just love OEM. You want to stick with OEM. Others look to just either get the cheapest part or are happy swapping it out. So we kind of wanted to kill two birds with one stone.
Yep.
Okay. So great. So that's the main part number. So let's jump into the suffix, right? Let's jump into sort of the final part. And I'll be very honest with you, when I first got into it, I didn't think too much of it. I thought, oh, it's just a new version of sort of the same part. But I was really schooled on that. I learned a lot about it. So why don't you talk a little bit more about the suffix piece and why it's so important?
So the suffix can be really trippy, because a difference in suffixes between two parts can mean anything between, oh, there was an ever so slight electronic upgrade where if you swap the two parts, it's basically meaningless, all the way to an entirely different trim level with an entirely different design, made of entirely different materials, massive upgrade. It can be a very, very big difference. So suffix is somewhere where you can really get tripped up.
Right. So you definitely want to be careful with it. And again, if you have any questions, give us a call. Look at the parts decoder. And this is definitely something where you want to cross the T's and dot the I's, and not just jump into buying a certain part and sort of crossing your fingers that it's going to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A good general rule is that if the suffix between two part numbers at least looks similar, then you are most certainly on the right track. But the minute you have a suffix, it could look exactly the same otherwise, but the minute you have a suffix between two parts that's completely different, you could be dealing with completely different parts with completely different behavior.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Okay, well, listen, you guys, I hope that was helpful. We certainly are here to help you guys. Again, we have our parts decoder. We got a lot of people here in our company that, frankly, know way more than I do about a lot of this. And so, bottom line is, we're here to help. And it doesn't matter who you are or what you're looking for. Give us a call, and we'll help you find the right part.
Damn right.
All right.